Should have a water back. All right, we're rolling.
Huh?
I said we're rolling.
Okay. So, where do you want to start? Because we can continue what we were talking about.
Yeah, whatever we're talking about.
Okay, transitioning.
Starting the story, so we always talk about drinking.
Right. So, yeah, when you brought up the drinks, I was talking about how my little short stint with alcoholism. Unofficial diagnosed alcoholism, but my experience with alcoholism, I guess being in the military, especially in the Navy, there's a lot of glamorizing the drinking culture,
Right.
especially in the 90s when I came in. It was just very easy to just get drinks wherever you went. On base, we had like the enlisted club, E club, there's O clubs. So there was basically nightclubs on base. So
Isn't there always an emphasis during Liberty on party?
pretty much, yeah. You're blowing off steam, so you're just kind of going to get out there and party. Unfortunately, I never totally had that experience of being, like I said, being on the ship and being deployed and the Liberty calls. I've only had one, and that was for Fleet Week when we went to San Francisco. And that was brief because it was only a few days, but I've never had a chance to experience it like other sailors have, where they're on the ship for 6 to 7 months. They go to different ports and really get their beaks wet, if you will. But for my stint, though, it didn't derive specifically from my culture of being in the military, but I did grow a fondness for drinking wine when I was living in Spain, though. I wasn't really a wine aficionado until I lived in Spain, because, Spain is already. Huh?
Maedera.
Maedera or the Rioja.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in southern Spain, so that was nice.
Sangria, is that Spanish or Mexican?
Sangria, yeah.
Spanish?
It's just a mix of the wines with the...
wine and fruit juices.
Wine or fruit juice, or wine and seltzer.
So it makes it dangerous, folks, because you don't taste it going down.
You
Same
don't.
thing with tiki drinks.
Right. But it wasn't that. It was my transition from the Navy that I found the hardest. Or what we were speaking on before was your purpose. Where do you find your purpose? Because for me, when joining the Navy when I was 19, you basically you grow up in the military. So after 20 years, you're a different person than where you started. But
Sure, yeah.
that's all you know. By design, you've been in this environment, so it's not just a job, it's a culture. So you've been in this culture for 20 years and you have a sense of duty and purpose because you do sign up for this. So depending on where your beliefs are, for me, it was more than just the benefits of college and a way to get out of my life, but it was also a sense of duty that I felt, that it was something bigger than me that I wanted to be a part of. So doing that was exceptional. So when you leave that, what do you have? So everything just kind of just stops. You retire or you separate or whatever happens to you, and it kind of just all stops. Who am I? The existential crisis. Who am I? What do I want to do when I grow up? What is that? Am I going to reinvent myself, or am I going to do more of the same? A lot of people stay within the same vocation because that's where their skill set is. That's where they have the training and the qualifications, so you kind of just fall into that on the civilian side. Me, on the other hand, I really didn't feel like I had what is it? What word I'm looking for is more of a flexible vocation, because it was medical as a corpsman. It wasn't like I was a registered nurse where I had these qualifications I left with, or a doctor, you left with these qualifications. A lot of the enlisted side, and I know this happens with a lot of the medics too in the Army side, and those are like combat medics. These are like awesome people. And you're working at paramedic level there, but you don't leave the military with a paramedic license.
But doesn't that at the very least qualify you as like an EMT?
Yeah, but it's state. There's a national registry that you take, because I was an EMT, but each state has their own in addition to. So you have to go and take the test for each state as well to meet their qualifications. And this is an annual thing. You got to keep up qualifications to keep the license. So
coming out of the military, you would still have to go through the EMT program and get qualified there?
Pretty much. Well, a lot of it's redundant, yeah. So even if you're working as a medical assistant, not a lot of places allow you to what they call challenge the LVN board. California, where I'm from, is a state that does that, but I would have to have gone back to California to challenge the board to be an LVN. They do that for Navy corpsmen or medical personnel in the military because of the training that we get. But there is no lateral conversion. For example, let's say you work in supply. You work in supply, logistics is logistics. Getting a logistics job is pretty much easy, and a good paying job is easy to find when you have a logistics background to fall into. I found for a lot of people, but for someone like me who in a vocation that requires certifications and licenses, those things we don't necessarily acquire. Those things that are can we take with us? They don't translate to the outside, so you have to start over. So as a 20-year corpsman who in my earlier days worked on the wards, worked with patients and did the entry-level stuff, if I went back to school now at my age to go to nursing school, I'm starting at the bottom again. I don't want to do that. I mean, it's great for a lot of people, but I'm going to be honest, I'd rather pick a different vocation. I don't want to do that, work on the wards, working 12-hour shifts and all those crazy things just to what exactly? I don't know. I don't see what I would get out of that, to be honest. So I had to look at what was I going to do with myself, try something new. So with that existential crisis came my sense of self declining. So what did I do? I self-medicated with alcohol. So I drank a lot. I figured, no one's going to watch me for my PRTs, which is a physical fitness test, which we used to do twice a year. I think they changed it recently, but so no one was monitoring me, my weight, my status, nothing about me. So I was self-medicating. I was not happy in a lot of facets of my life. So I did what everybody else was doing. Everybody else around me was just drinking and partying and having a good time. So I fell into that too because it was easier. Than fighting them, it was easier to just join them because I went back and forth with that dialogue so many times with somebody that I just didn't want to do it again. It was just easier.
Isn't that kind of the culture?
It is. It is the culture to be that drunken sailor with that attitude of who cares as long as I can get my job done, but no sense of health or self. And it's very destructive. It's very destructive. So I was drinking a lot. I was drinking martinis. I was drinking wine like it was nobody's business. There's a lot of money in addition to that you're just throwing away. But I knew that I had a problem when I started looking at the clock and waiting for my son to come home because I knew he was safe and then I could start drinking. I was just waiting for that next hit. And all day I felt like trash. I felt like trash all the time. I didn't feel good. I didn't like who I was becoming, what I looked like, but that's all I could think about because it was just easier that way. But like we discussed earlier, the crazy part to me is that nobody in my orbit that I had around me at the time showed any concern for me. They didn't seem concerned that I was not who I was prior, or that I had gained a lot of weight, or that I didn't seem like myself. They were just also going along with the program because I guess they didn't want to rock the boat or it worked for them. So if they were to say something and change me, that means they would have to change or cause them to question what their behavior is. I don't know, but it was a slippery slope and a vicious cycle, and I'm not proud of who I was at that point. But in the meantime, I was just working on my degree, thinking I was going to go back to work. That didn't work out because COVID happened. I finished my degree and COVID happened. Had one interview, it didn't work out, which was fortuitous in a sense because a few months later, that's when I got my cancer diagnosis for my breast cancer. So the universe had a different path set for me, and as scary and devastating as my life has been, dealing with the after effects of what my life after breast cancer, the fears and all of that stuff that goes with it, I think it, in a weird way, also saved my life because I was living a destructive life. Anyways, with the alcoholism. So this put me back on track to find me, who I am as a person.
Like I said, it's cool that you recognize this all on your own, and you didn't have to get into Alcoholics Anonymous, as good as I'm sure they are. You did it all on your own.
Well, because I think alcoholism is a true disease for a lot of people. And unfortunately, I don't believe I have the disease in the sense that I need it and to function. It was more of a coping mechanism, a way to escape my reality. Like I was just numbing, self-medicating, just numbing. Other people do it with drugs. I was just doing it with alcohol. My new drug now is exercise. My new thing is I'm turning into a gym rat.
Hey, that could be a certificate, from what I understand.
Exactly. So
pheromones or something it releases?
Like your oxytocin and your I forget. Yeah, right. The feel-good hormone.
It releases some, not dopamine. That's
it is dopamine. Yeah, no, it's dopamine. Mm-hmm. It gives you a dopamine hit, but it just makes you feel good overall. And this is I'm reintroducing myself back to me, because this is who I've always been. My lifestyle that I've always chosen, it was just that stint after retirement, or even prior to that, about 5 years prior to that, it was just, I was not in a good place. So I was just finding an escape. And that happened to be the escape because that's what everybody was doing, and it was easier than fighting everybody around me. It was just easier to go along with their program. Sure, they want to drink all the time, let's just do that. So they want to do that, let's just do that then. Fine, let's just do that. It was easier than dealing with what I was dealing with. Even though I had a psychiatrist that I would talk to, I didn't really feel like I was getting anywhere because I was still not tackling the true issues that were at my core about what was going on, about my sense of self. Because a lot of changes, right? I experienced a lot of changes at once. You left the military, self-identity. What am I going to do with myself? Trying to figure that part out, to the fear of what if I don't find anything? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a new beginning.
All of it. It's just, it's all these big changes that went along with it. So it was a lot of changes at once. And at the time, I did not know that I was ADHD or on the spectrum. I'm pretty sure I'm like slightly autistic. But
That said, you got to stop drinking so much.
Yeah, I know, right? So I didn't know. I didn't know that I was having these meltdowns or this inability to cope, to manage different things, was all derived from that. Once I fixed that element, though, and I identified that with my counselor, and we got medication, and my life changed completely. It was like, that's what it was. So I've been having all these problems my entire life with emotional regulation and trying to figure shit out, was all because I was undiagnosed. I was an undiagnosed ADHD female, which is very common, especially for women. As you get older, we tend to get diagnosed later in our life. And once we figure that element out and we start to treat it, it changes the whole trajectory of how you focus and you think and you see the world. And that's what that missing element was, that helped me move in the direction that I needed to move in.
Right.
But yeah, no, life is hard when you move from the military. And some people find it easy, it looks easy because they just transition, they go get a job. But I don't think a lot of people really talk about the sense of self. I never really hear that, especially from men. I don't really hear a lot of male veterans talk about the sense of self and loss when they leave the organization. They're just kind of like, well, I went and did something else.
Don't do that.
No, but everybody has to go through that sense of like, who am I? That sense of self. What does that look like? And I think that's why you see a lot of, I don't want to say males, but it's predominantly in the males, is that you see a lot of that holding on to that with the gear and the self-identifying on their vehicles, and a lot of it is that's still keeping that link of who I am. It's like I was this rank. That's who I should be referred to all the time, and there's not a clear delineation between those two characters. It's like, who's the avatar? Who's the real person? Like, who are you? And you probably just don't even know anymore.